Welcome to Hoko Palizzo's Poetry Moment, featuring Lee Young Lee's poem, A Final Thing. I'm Sarah Luckadoo. If we're lucky enough, we remember elders reading books to us when we were children. And then, if we're doubly lucky, we become readers and pass the literary love down to successive generations. In this poetry moment, Lee Young Lee transforms an everyday moment of reading to a child into a sacred act. A mother reads to her child in the next room. A listener can hear the cadence, the love in the voice, but not discern the story. Lee explains the origin of the poem. I was waking up every morning and listening to my wife read to our son in the other room. Every morning I woke up experiencing that. I realized I was in the presence of something really magical and wonderful, and on the one hand, eternal, and on the other hand, very impermanent. I knew that somehow I was in the presence of poetry, and it was up to me to find the place in myself where I could pay attention enough to write this. Lee had a harrowing early start to his life. His father had been Mao Zedong's personal physician, but his parents fled China as political exiles. After settling in Indonesia, anti-Chinese sentiment rose in that country, and his father was arrested and held as a political prisoner for a year. After a 5-year trek through Macau, Hong Kong, and Japan, the family finally settled in America. But he does remember his father reading to him, even during their flight, and how later his father required him to memorize literature and recite it. The poetry Lee writes has a quality of mysticism to it, a way of taking a consecrated look at everyday events, such as reading a story to a child. He compares writing poetry to praying. In an interview with Poets and Writers, Lee said that part of the mission of poetry was to help build heaven on earth. In his memoir, The Winged Seed, Lee writes, "May the child never forget the power of the small. May the man never wake a stranger to himself." Lee never forgot the power of the small, the sacred moment of reading to a child. And now, A Final Thing by Lee Young Lee.
It's called A Final Thing. I am that last, that final thing, the body in a white sheet listening, the whole of me trained, curled like one great ear on a sound, a noise I know, a woman talking in another room, the woman I love. And though I can't hear her words, by their voicing, I can guess she is telling a story. Using a voice which speaks to another, weighted with that other's attention, and avowing it by deepening in intention. Rich with the fullness of what's declared, this voice points away from itself to some place in the hearer, sends the hearer back to himself to find what he knows. A saying full of hearing, a murmuring full of telling and compassion for the listener and for what's told, now interrupted by a second voice, thinner, higher, uncertain, querying, it seems, an invitation to be met, stirring anticipation, embodying in completion of time and the day. My son, my firstborn, and his mother are involved in a story no longer only theirs, for I am implicated, all three of us now, clinging to expectancy, riding sound and air. Will my first morning of heaven be this? No, and this is not my last morning on earth. I am simply last in my house to waken, and the first sound I hear is the voice of one I love, speaking to one we love. I hear it through the bedroom wall. Something, someday, I'll close my eyes to recall.